Hello, welcome to John's Author Diary for the weekend in April the 28th, 2019. I've had a fun week, not done much in the way of work. I had my sister come to stay with her boyfriend and my nephew. It was really good because my nephew and my son get on really well. My nephew's 8 and my son's 6, so it was a bit noisy, but they had a good time, so that's the main thing. In terms of actual work, I've managed to do very little. I got 2 scenes written for the Hermit, so that brings it up to a total of 4 scenes. And then I wrote an outline for the new stuff that I need to write for Black Death 3. I should get that finished early next week. My sister introduced me to a really fun comedy called What We Do in Shadows. Now, I've seen a film of this a few years ago, and I didn't realise they had made a series. So if you're not familiar with this is basically a mockumentary comedy about vampires living in the modern age, and it's hilarious. It's really good. I also watched the new episode of Game of Thrones, which was great. Again, it seems like they're doing a lot of setup. They're tying off a few storylines before going into the finale. Part of me does feel that they've had about 7 series worth of build up to this, so maybe they should just get on with it now. Of course, I won't give any spoilers because that would be mean. Though I did laugh uproariously at the thing about Giant's Milk. I've been getting into a relatively new podcast this week. This is called 30 Animals That Made Us Smarter. Now, this is basically the same format as 50 Things That Made the Modern Economy. It's a BBC World Service podcast. And so we've had episodes about things like kingfishers and how they inspired the bullet train, how bats have inspired equipment for visually impaired people. So it's one of those fascinating, quick 10, 15-minute podcasts that the BBC does really well. Speaking of fascinating, I listened to the interview with Graham Hancock on the Joe Rogan Experience. This was a deep dive into things like lost civilizations in America and stuff about early man. So it was a fascinating discussion because of my background way back when I was doing stuff with academia. He was one of those historians who was derided and treated with suspicion because a lot of what he does goes against the grain of archaeology. Now, I tend to find myself being very suspicious of consensuses in academic fields. I always find they're perfect places to disrupt and to find cracks. And when you do, that's when you get paradigm shifts. This is something that happened in science. It's happened over and over again in history. The whole point of the historical and scientific process is that you are meant to question and challenge. And I think when you do get these consensuses, that's when it becomes dogmatic and incredibly limiting to development. So I really enjoyed that conversation. I don't know how to take him just because I agreed with a lot of the things he was saying on a philosophical level. But, I'm no archaeologist, but some of his theories about things like the development of maps was really fascinating. So I'd recommend checking it out. I read a writing craft book this week. This was a book called How Not to Write a Novel, and it was great. It's one of the better writing books that I've read in quite a while, to be honest. I think what I've found, because I've been going through a lot of things like writing courses and books about the craft of writing, a lot of the lessons seem to be the same. A lot of the advice given is the same, so it's been very hard to find anything really new with it. Now, this book had about 200 examples of bad writing, bad storytelling, and it was really funny. Well worth a read. If you're just starting out as a writer, it's a brilliant book. Even if you've been writing a while, I think it's one that I recommend. It made me feel confident that I'm doing a lot of the right things. So a lot of my writing time in May is already starting to be whittled away. So I'm just going to have to take it as it comes. But we've got things like European elections. So my son's school is being used as a polling station. And there are other things going on like bank holidays, and then there's another half term. So I think I might have maybe 10 writing days throughout May. So I'm thinking that'll give me just about enough time to get a second draft of The Hermit done. So I've had no questions this week, but if you have a question, please email me. It's john@johncronshaw.com. You can also support me on Patreon. That's patreon.com/johncronshawauthor. You can also check out a new podcast that I'm involved with. This is called the Sci-Fi Roundtable. So this is where we talk about different subjects in the sci-fi and fantasy realms. We've released our first few episodes, so we've got one on the multiverse and Japanese mythology. And so it's a roundtable format. There's a few of us doing it. We take it in turns with the hosting and things like that. So it's a really cool podcast. It's a lot of fun to do. So please do check that out. And if you enjoy it, please do share and leave a review. We want to make this as big as possible. So until next time, cheerio.